What about the GOAT? Tuesday, 7 games in the NBA, a huge performance from one of the greatest of all time. Taylor Horton-Tucker had 27 points. We'll talk about that and all of the 7 games across the NBA in a fantasy basketball recap. Michael Bolton, get ready.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and if you say any negative comments down below, you're going to be banned from this show. You, your children, and your children's children for 3 months. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and I want you guys to check out lockedondaily.com. That is where you can find the best newsletter for your favorite team. Get over there to lockedondaily.com. Remember, this show is your first listen every day. All you everydays, all you double bangers, we're all here. We're checking out the newsletter. We're subscribing on audio and video. We're doing all of that fantastic stuff. We are getting towards the end of the NBA season, as you're well aware. We're 2 days into the second last week, and we got some bangers, some big performances. We had 7 games on. We're going to talk about those 7 games. It is today World Autism Awareness Day. So I'm sure most of us are aware of autism, but are we actually aware of autism? What do you know about it? It's just a day which, again, is really important across the world to bring that awareness out, and just the awareness to learn a little bit more about the ways that can manifest and impact. All right, what are we here to do? We're here to talk about the games. That's right. We are here to do that because that is our position in life. Should we talk about a little bits of news for tomorrow, especially? And we got Lauri Markkanen, and you'll be shocked to know he's out again. This time a different illness, not personal reasons, not an illness, not reconditioning, now knee soreness. I tell you what, I get other things and like, oh, the fans are playing, well, they're paying money, the girl's happy, all that sort of stuff, right? They're all paying their money to the tickets, but we know what's happening. These NBA rules lead to this garbage. Just tell us he's not playing. We know he's not playing. You know he's not playing. I know he's not playing. Adam Silver knows he's not playing. Danny Ainge knows he's not playing. Everybody knows that he's not playing. The Jazz fans know that he's not playing. Just say that he's out. What are we waiting for? Why are we waiting for it? Illness, personal, reconditioning, knee soreness. Next to be back soreness and wrist soreness. Just rule him out, man. I don't know about Walker Kessler. I wrote Walker there. His name's Kessler. Bruh. Kessler, the original name of Kramer, as you're well aware. Sexton is the other one. They're questionable. Those guys I don't really have a good read on. I do know that if Sexton plays, he shouldn't be playing 30 minutes. He'll probably play 22. They're against the Rockets, though, so he might. And then I expect Kessler comes back, plays his 28 minutes or so. Cade is doubtful again. That's not great. Tobias Harris looks like he'll play, but those guys did get suspended, Isaiah Stewart for 2 games, Sasa and Rugged Ronnie Holland. This means there's a huge opportunity here for Dennis Schroder because the point guard depth here is non-existent. It's Denise Jenkins and Schroder. So Asar Thompson will have to do ball handling as well, which obviously improves his value. We'll see if they finally give us the game where he is over 30 minutes. And I do not know. It is late in the season, man. We've only got a few days left. Why have I got TJ McConnell on that graphic? I guess TJ McConnell? Sure. Don't know why he's there, but he's there. And it means absolutely nothing in case you're wondering why his name is there. We should talk about some waiver wire trends. We'll get into that now. The most added and the most dropped players. How much sense do they make? Whether you should be following those moves or not. That also does bring me into normally on a Thursday for me, which is a Wednesday afternoon for the guys in the States and in Canada, that I would do a waiver wire show. I'm not doing waiver wire shows anymore for this season. But the reason is there is 10 days left in the season. And me giving ideas of waiver wire, well, this is a rest of season move. It's not really relevant. Like from then onwards, from that day onwards, there's going to be 3 days the week after where there's no streams happening. We're just talking about like such marginal stuff where you've got to be just attacking every day and every little 2-day chunk as a 2-day chunk. So I won't do the overarching waiver wire show tomorrow. We'll still do the preview show for Thursday, and we'll do those all the way through, and the recap shows all the way through. But the traditional waiver wire show won't be happening. Now, what I am looking at here is who has been added. Matas Buzelis. Good move. I think he is worth that grab. Peyton Watson with the back-to-back and with the absence of Gordon, likely tomorrow, and then the unexpected absence of Porter today and Murray today. That worked out well. Adem Bona. I like the ad. Lou Dort, he is a stream guy. We know that, points and threes. Ryan Rollins is an assists and steals guy. There's some value in him. And then Jared Butler, who unfortunately moved to the bench today, but we'll talk about that when we get to that Sixers game later on. All those moves make quite a bit of sense in terms of the current context of where we are. Guys that have been dropped. Number one is Fanapants Kevin Huerter, just because he sat that Monday game, I'm guessing. I don't know. He was back on Tuesday. He is totally okay to use. We'll see what happens when Lonzo Ball does return, or if he does return after the Bulls. Again, what is with this team and lying on the injury report? I do not understand it. But yeah, while he's out, Huerter's got pretty good value. McCollum's a drop. Obviously, people did drop Kevin Durant. They were able to get that situation reversed of the can't cut list. So yeah, he's out for at least this week. So that if you're in Yahoo default, of course he's not playing at all in your final week. So see you later. Jose Alvarado was dropped, and that makes sense given the context. Same with Kelly Olynyk. Zion Williamson being dropped as well makes sense. He's out for the year. But with Alvarado and Olynyk, that made sense because they didn't play. They do play now. So I would reverse course on this, and it was the correct decision to drop them, but now you make the moves to re-add them because they play on Wednesday and they've got a nice little chunk of games coming up. So you've always got to make that move at the right time because 2 days ago it was the easy call to drop those players, and now we reverse that and we look at those players as addable options. Let's get into just talking about the games now. We'll go in first game. We're talking Sixers and Knicks is the first one up for us. The Philadelphia 76ers, Quentin Grimes returned from his rest, and he started. And that meant that Jared Butler moved to the bench, not Lonnie Walker, which is probably the way that I thought that it would go, but it did not. That's okay. Let's talk about what Grimes did. Another 26, 4, and 5 with 3 steals as continues to put up ridiculous numbers. They lost 105-91, exactly the result they wanted. Grimes did his thing. He's been great. He is really, really elevated as a player who have been high on and then lost some faith in his knees, and he's been great. The big fella, Boner, 32 minutes for him, 9 and 8, 2 steals and 3 blocks. No idea whether Yabusele returns. I'm telling you, Drummond won't return. I'm very certain. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm not so sure about that now that Kyle Lowry came back for some reason. But Boner is just a guy to roster. Richard Council had 15 and 5. He had a steal. That's fine. He is not reliable, but it's fine. And what we've also seen is someone like Justin Edwards, who's been playing really well, playing a lot of minutes. These players who are not good, which Edwards is not good, but he can be very inconsistent, and we saw it. He had 6 points on 7 shots with no assists and only 2 steals. He was getting by on extreme volume with really outlier shooting. I would still hold him, but understand who he is. Lonnie Walker went back to being Lonnie Walker, 11 points on 12 shots. He did have 7 rebounds and 4 assists, but to me, he is not a 12-team priority. He's just a bad fantasy player. And Alex Reese had 10 and 4 as a backup center. We got 19 Marcus Bagley minutes, and unfortunately for Jared Butler, if you did add him, he only played 24. He did have 7 assists, so it wasn't a complete disaster if you did grab him. But you wanted more, especially in a game where Jeff Doughton didn't play. We only got the 24 minutes, and this will happen with these players. I still think the Butler is okay to have, but when the schedule doesn't make sense for you, and that might be where we're at now, you don't have to. Same with Edwards. If you wanted to drop, you can. As for Lowry, he came back, he double-cheeked it up for 2 steals and a block. He took 1 shot, and again, I just don't really know why he's back and he's playing, but good for him. On the Knicks side of things, I talked about this on the preview show for Wednesday, saying, hey, I reckon there's a bit of a chance here that old mate Karl Towns might sit with his knee. I didn't think it would happen on Tuesday, but he did. He was out. So Mitchell Robinson started, played 21 minutes, 14 and 14, 1 steal, 2 blocks. On days where Towns is out, you do it, but I'm almost certain that Robinson's not going to play tomorrow. So I don't think we need to be looking at streaming him in even if Towns is out. It could mean an opportunity where Towns and Mitch are out, so Precious Achiuwa, the big sneeze, is able to step up into a larger role for that game. Anunoby continues his ridiculous play, 27 with 2 threes and 2 steals, and DeLon Wright, while the guys are out, no Brunson, no McBride, and no Payne, we got another big game. Well, it's not big, but it's good. 12, 4, and 4 with 3 steals for DeLon. Mikal Bridges struggled somewhat, while Josh Hart also not his best, and he has definitely fallen off over the last, 4 to 5 weeks. Again, the season, that does happen, and he was also shooting some outrageous percentages, which have come back to earth. We got a lot of minutes out of Landry Shamet, 34 minutes, 20 points, and 6 threes. He doesn't normally do this, even with those other point guards out. That's a little bit of an outlier. I wouldn't be reading a huge amount into that game from Landry Shamet. We also got 7 assists from Tyler Kolek, but very, very tough sort of player at this stage to rely upon. We've got 6 more games, including that big eruption from Steph Curry, as well as another big monster triple-double from Denny Avdia. But today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. On Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000, not 10,000, 1,000 times your cash. Strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, of course. You can look at first innings runs. Prize Picks keeps the game exciting, and you can do cross-sport stuff too. So you can combine basketball and baseball. You can chuck something on the GOAT, Jackson Merrill, into one of your lineups. You can chuck it in there with a Luka Doncic, or maybe it is. You want to go a random Taylor Horton-Tucker. I'm not sure if they have him on there, but they might. You never know. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA. For $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, Prize Picks, run your game. Okay. That was the first game out of the way. Not out of the way, because we love all games equally, and we always want to talk about them. We're not trying to fob them off. Let's go on to the second one. It is the Portland Trail Blazers and the Atlanta Hawks. The Blazers on the road, 127. They beat the Hawks 113. There was no Anthony Simons, or you'll be shocked given the calendars in April. There was no Jeremy Grant, and there was no Scoot Henderson. So that means it's only one man that can step up. It's the GOAT, Delano Banton, who had 11, 7, and 5 on 28%. This is one of the most annoying players to me because he's one of those guys that in fantasy finals time on a bad team like this, he gets random opportunities and he puts up stats. Like he had 4 blocks, but bro is just a bad player. 27% shooting, 1 of 2 from the line, 11, 7, and 5 with 4 blocks is very useful for some formats, but you can't trust him because he's bad. And when I say that, like when I say you can't trust him, is that at any point, they can just say, absolutely not, man. We need somebody else in there. Anyone comes back, he's demoted. He needs a lot of things to go right. And the stats will come. He'll have incredible usage with terrible efficiency. Avdia had 32, 15, and 10 with 2 steals and 3 threes. He continues his ridiculous run. He is a top 5 player over the last 2 weeks. And where he is drafted next season is going to be very intriguing. I will maintain that, again, a lot of this stuff that is happening is completely... I don't know if completely fake is the right term, but it is fake because we have to, it's all about context. Simons, Ayton, Scoot, Grant, all out. And you can say, well, this team is not built on the future of Ayton and Grant's not going to be here, and that all might be true. But in situations where those guys go or are traded, they're not turning into thin air. Some other player is returning and things will be different, but that is 4, maybe you don't call Scoot a starter, but it's 3 starters and Scoot Henderson not here. Meaning others need to step up. And they did. And the same goes with Shaedon Sharpe, who had 33 and 10 with 2 steals. It's why March basketball and now April basketball, it needs to be very, very cautiously analyzed in terms of what it means as we move forward. Klingon still was like very mid, 11, 7, and 5, and didn't get a single block. I do think that you hold him in most cases, but also he's not good enough to be an automatic lock-in player, and if you wanted to move on, you could. If you streamed in Matisse Thybulle for steals, well, you got an absolutely huge reward. Imagine getting 5 assists as well as the 5 steals. Plus, he played 29 minutes out of nowhere. That's random. While Kamara had 18 with 2 steals. Dwop Reith got his backup minutes again, but we also saw a bit of Jabari Walker, which nullified some of the Dwop stuff. We had 5 and 4 for Reith and 9 and 4 for Walker. Not much else going on that side of the equation. Let's go on to the Hawks side, though, because last game they went back to the night watchman, Mohamed Waiver, and they stuck with him here in the starting lineup. Now, it didn't really matter because he played, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and went scoreless. He did have 2 steals and a block, but what his presence back in the rotation is doing is just capping the ceiling on Vit Krejci. Krejci played 24 minutes and had 13 and 7 with 3 threes, which is really good. But if you're playing 24 instead of 28, it makes me hard to look at you more than just being a streamer. The GOAT Dyson Daniels had 22 and 10 with 3 steals and 2 blocks, while Trey had 29 and 15, including a locker room trip. But good numbers for him, and it wasn't the greatest Onyeka Okongwu night. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the greatest. 12, 6, and 3. After we got a big game last time out for Zachary Ricochet, we should have expected a stinker because that's what he gave us. 9, 3, and 2 with 2 blocks. He shot 29% and continues to be really... Like, I know that there is a case to be made that he could be the Rookie of the Year, and that's okay because the other contenders aren't very good either. But like he still remains very disappointing, very reliant on being set up by other players. He's got no real self-creation, and still the efficiency is a real problem. So where we head long-term with him, I don't really know. With a lot of these rookies, it's so hard to judge. At the moment, he remains Ricochet, just a 12-team streamer. Man had 7 points in 16. That is Terrence. While we got a dud Levert game, which again, if you don't expect that, then what are you actually doing? 10 points with no assists and a steal and a block for Dracaris Levert. George Niang also, who was playing 24 minutes, Niang, He's down as a below 20-minute guy. He had 3 points on 17%, which clearly is just not enough for our needs and uses. We'll go on to the next game. It is the third game of the day. The Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks were in Milwaukee for this, and the Bucks went at 133. 123, no Kevin Durant, and they actually went to Grayson Allen in this game. Now, I don't know that they would have done that in other spots because Bradley Beal was out, and then Royce O'Neal was also out. But it wasn't Bol, so that's worth noting. In fact, Bol played a grand total of 0 minutes, because again, he's bad. As for Allen, well, I love to see this, right? Because it means that, the minutes aren't low because of injury. They're low because Budenholzer doesn't want to play him. 34 minutes, 23 and 4, 6 dribbles. That's great. Will we feel confident in that if Beal and O'Neal return, the old law firm of Beal and O'Neal? No, we shouldn't. Because they're two players, again, who easily could play 34 minutes. Easily. So don't get over your skis on Grayson. Old Devin Booker had 39 with 11 assists on 32 shots. But what about the big fella Colin Gillespie, who's actually a really little fella? He had 18 with 4 threes, 4 assists, and 2 steals. And the fact that he is playing more and starting over Tyus Jones, when there was the absolute hyperbolic nonsense about Tyus Jones in the offseason, not from a fantasy perspective, there was a little bit of that, but not really. But the real life perspective, man, the CBA is cooked. CJ killed this guy. How could he have to take, you know why he had to take a minimum contract? Not that good. As for Gillespie, if they do make the playoffs, don't think they will, he would need to be converted to be eligible to play. Oscar Iguodala only 18 minutes, while BD&R played 30. Big Dick Nick Richards had 13 and 11. Shout out to the Eve Messi quality of that line. That is like whatever. It's definitely not a must. It is a streamable situation for head-to-head categories, and in points you should have no interest in that. But I'm sure you're all well aware of the stylings of Nick Richards at this stage in the season. Should we do the other side of this game? That's probably a good way to do it. It's the Milwaukee Bucks. They entered this game with the same starting group, so that meant Ryan Rollins got the start again. We'll go straight to him. That's where the intrigue is. And 23 points in 31 minutes for Rollins. 80% shooting, which is not real, but he did the thing that he does. He is a master at stealing. 2 steals with 5 assists, with 5 threes, and that meant that our mate, cousin Kevin Porter, had 9 points in 17 minutes. You do not roster Kevin Porter in 12-team leagues. He's too unpredictable. He's too unreliable. He needs a crazy little hot streak to post numbers. And rightfully, not always going to be praising Doc Rivers' coaching decisions. Rightfully, Doc doesn't want to play in big minutes because he is actively bad. Rollins stays within his lane. Now, this stuff from Rollins at the moment won't hold. He's not going to shoot like this. But if he was to get 30 tonight, then there probably is some 12-team value there. As for Gaza Trent, I made the mistake of saying, Trent looks okay, maybe we add him, when I'm a known Gary Trent hater. So let's go back to hating. 6 points with 2 threes in 27 minutes. In fact, John Armstrong, what do you reckon?
Get that garbage out of here.
Sounds like a plan. Speaking of hating, Kyle Kuzma had 12 points in 37 minutes. He did have 2 blocks and 5 assists, which is like a year's worth of stats for Kuzma. He remains, to me, only a stream guy, a Schedule Plus guy, and absolutely not someone I'm locking into. Nice game from the artist formerly known as the amino acid legend Torian Prince. 16 with 4 threes, a steal and a block. Absolutely unreliable as well. I haven't even told you about Yanni, who had 37 with only 5 rebounds, but 11 assists and 3 steals, while Brook Lopez bounced back for 22, 6 and 6. And getting 6 assists out of Brook Lopez must feel like, must feel like he got magical powers or something, because how are we getting 6 assists out of that guy? Should we do the next game? I actually think that's a pretty good idea. We're talking about, in this one, the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Here it is. The Warriors win at 134-125 on the back of Steph Curry. Curry played 37 minutes. He had 52 points with 12 threes, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals, 1 block, 8 of 8 from the line, and 52% on 31 attempts. It's one of the best games you will ever see. One of the best fantasy games ever. Unbelievable stuff from Steph. Huge. Pulling it out now is unbelievable as well. Moses Moody also played a lot of minutes in this game. They went with a really, really quite tight rotation, mainly just 8 guys with 10 minutes of Kevon Looney chucked in there, and that's without Kuminga, so that did help those other guys do more. We also got a lot of Jimmy Butler, who is starting to play much, much better. 27, 6, and 4 with 3 steals, while Draymond had a nice triple-double. This is just stereotypical Draymond. 13, 10, 12, 2 steals and a block. I wouldn't say I'd be adding Moody. The minutes are intriguing, and with Kuminga out, he's more interesting. But he's more in that points and 3 stream, while Bud Hield had 8 with 2. And it was a real dud from Brandon Podziemski. 8 points, 5 rebounds, 36%. I still think he's okay to hold, but this is clearly bad. Quinton Post only got the 20 minutes with 9 points. He's a deeper league player at this stage, but overall, we're pretty sort of secure on what the Warriors are doing. And as from where we were at the start of the year when they played a 13-man rotation, to see Steve Kerr go down to 8 in a game like this is it's intriguing to say the least. And would have loved it a little bit earlier, Stephen, but that's okay. We adapt and we adjust and we thrive and we strive and we drive, and it's about drive and power. And I'm just sort of ad-libbing at the moment. Let's talk about the Grizzlies. Ja Morant somehow played on a back-to-back despite being out for a hamstring injury and played 33 minutes. Now, this does absolutely nothing to dispel the idea that he was sitting out in a protest because Taylor Jenkins was still the coach. I do not believe that at all. But I will acknowledge the fact that he plays a back-to-back. He comes back the day after Taylor Jenkins was fired and plays a back-to-back on a supposed hamstring injury is either idiotic injury management, shout out Memphis, or the hamstring was bullshit. I'm not saying that it was, because that's not me. But it does make me, if you were to say that to me, I'd say, yeah, something doesn't quite add up on playing this back-to-back. He was awesome though, 36, 3 and 6 with 2 steals, including a locker room trip, and you don't get pep points for that though. Desi Bain had 19, 4 and 5 with 2 steals, and Jaren had some foul trouble. He ended up fouling out in the end. He had 22 and 7. What we also got is just a complete reversal, and I'm very clearly wrong here because I thought this might be a horrible matchup for Zach Edey, that he might get played off the court. Instead, he played like the most minutes he's played all season. 32 minutes, 10 and 16 with 4 blocks. And this is one of the things I talked about, I think it was when it was Kings versus, Bucks, whoever it was. I was like, there are 2 ways you can go about things. You can say, we're going to match up against the other team, and we're going to say, well, they're going small, so we're going to go smaller in our lineups. Or you do the exact opposite and say, cool, we'll just go big and try to make them adjust to us. Making you try to make fantasy decisions on that is tough because it's an easily viable argument either way. Whether you try to go small to match up or you go big to exploit. In this one, and in the past, they've gone small against the Warriors to match up. In this one, they exploited. And Edey was fine. Is he a must-roster player? That's 2 good ones out of his last 3. I do find it hard to trust him. Again, just look back literally one day and he struggled, but that's a good game. We also got good minutes from Aldama. 30 minutes for Santi. He had 18 and 6 with 4 threes. He is probably a 12-team league guy. And with Morant playing, the value of Kennard and Pippen is in the bin, and I just wouldn't bother holding those guys at that point. I know you've all been waiting for it because we're going to talk about my Toronto Raptors taking on my GOAT, Taylor Horton-Tucker, and my Bulls. That's coming up, as well as the other games. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Monarch Money. You have a check into your bank account and just wonder, where did it go? Where did the time go? Where did the memories go? But more importantly, where did the money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment, subscriptions. It's always coming out and it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center tracking all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you don't just manage your money, start building wealth. Instead of juggling through those multiple apps, you can use Monarch to track your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. And managing money with your partner can be smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, so let's get into this game. It is the Raptors and the Bulls. The Bulls win it easy against a Raptors team that is still trying to lose very clearly. 137-118 is the final score here in favor of Chicago. So Quickly was back, Shed to the bench. Pirtle was back, Robinson to the bench. Barrett was out, so Jamison Battle back to the starting lineup. And that has just been the pattern going back and forward with this team over the last, 3 weeks or so as they try and maybe catch up to Brooklyn, but at least keep themselves from San Antonio catching them, which is probably the key at the moment. So as for Quickly, he played just 24 minutes, and he was good, 17, 1 and 9, but this is the problem. Is he going to play just one more game this week? You might need to drop that. Jakob Poeltl played 24 minutes. He had 12 and 5. Again, not bad, but with one more game, why do you hold? Scotty Barnes, 24 minutes. Again, the pattern of what they're doing is clear. 9, 4 and 4 with 2 steals on 29%. He's also been not very good recently, Barnesy. Even though he is playing every game, I would expect next week at least that Barnes doesn't play in some of those games. I think they'll start to sit him down. I would hold Barnes for now, but maybe not long term. What we also got is Orlando Robinson having a solid enough game, and next one with Pirtle likely out, he should bump back up again. 13 with 3 threes for Orlando Robinson and a block. Not great on the rebound side, but otherwise pretty strong. And then we also got a solid game from Jacoby Walter, who's had a couple of good ones recently. I'm not going to fully go in on it, but 17, 4 and 4 with 5 threes. The numbers are okay. He's a definite 14-team league at the moment, Jacoby Walter, and putting up some okay numbers. Battle did nothing, 5, 4 and 4. Jamal Shed did nothing, 9 and 5, but he will probably start and be useful in the next game. Again, I just wish we didn't have to make this charade a thing where you could just say they're not playing, so we could just see Shed roll for a period of time here. What else on that side? Not much. Jared Rhoden returned to play 4 minutes. That was pretty worth it. I think the takeaways here are maybe we look at Walter. I think Robinson's pretty useful. And then you get to some maybe flashes from Mobo. And Shed is going to be a bit of an up and down guy. On the Chicago side, as they just keep pushing, don't they? They just keep going at it. They keep winning. Well, they don't keep winning because they got cooked in their last game. But your Eastern Conference Player of the Month, Kobe White, played 34 minutes. He had 28, 3 and 6 with 2 steals and shot electric. He was absolutely horrible in the last game and was great here. And he's been awesome, obviously. He's put up really, really good numbers. This team remains really hard to judge. We only got 28 minutes of Josh Giddey, which is interesting. He didn't have foul trouble. He did have a lot of turnovers, and he shot poorly again, but 17, 7, and 12 with 3 steals, they're usable counting stats. And what I do like is over, say, 2 of his last 3 games, he is giving us the numbers, which are things that you can expect moving forward. Not the other ones, these ones. These are more realistic. Only got 25 minutes out of Vooch in this game. Again, it was a blowout, so there was no need to really extend them. But they only missed 2 minutes or so at the end of the game due to the blowout. They just went in different directions. Vooch still had 22, 10, and 7. It's a great game and really good shooting, but the minutes were something to watch. Because what did happen in this game with no Trey Jones and with no Lonzo Ball and with no Dalen Terry and no Julian Phillips, we got an uncorking of Talen Horton-Tucker. Now, Horton-Tucker is very much proto-Delano Banton, a guy that sucks and can be inefficient but can rack up stats. He actually wasn't inefficient here. He was great. 27, 6, and 3. He hit 3 threes. He shot 50% from the field, and he was 8 of 8 from the line. It is a weird scenario when you're giving 26 usage to Talen Horton-Tucker, but it worked. But obviously, you can look at the game logs, and you can see that this isn't the thing that happens. In most nights, he doesn't even play. This one came out of nowhere and needed Ball, Carter, Terry, and Phillips to be out. That probably won't be the case. I can see him getting a couple of opportunities in games moving forward, but I hardly see a very clear opening here for Horton-Tucker to be a regular 30-minute player. It wasn't the best Matas Buzelis game, but he still played 29 minutes, so we like that. He got 4 steals and a block, and we love that. And he probably should be on a roster. Well, Kevin Huerter was Kevin Huerter. He shot unbelievably, 78%, sorry, but not much else. 16 with 2 threes, and while Ball is out, and I think Ball will probably miss the next one, I do think that we can use Kevin Huerter. Not much from Patrick Williams, which is not a surprise to anybody who's watched Patrick Williams play before. We'll go on to the next game, the Orlando Magic and the San Antonio Spurs. Were we in San Antonio for this one? Yes, we were. The Magic win at 116-105. That's 2 good games in a row from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. 23 points in 31 minutes with 7 threes and 3 steals. He shot 73% to get there. I just don't care enough. It's a stream situation. They've got 1 game left this week on Thursday as well, so you're not adding him for this. You're just not. As a single-day stream, maybe on Thursday, but otherwise don't. Banchero, 24, 10, and 4. Wagner, 24, 5, and 7. Just good, solid games. And we actually got the return of Cole Anthony. He came off the bench. He played 19 minutes. He had 9, 5, and 4, 2 steals and a block, which is on the way to being a really good game. But, like I said, they've got 1 game left this week. You do not go and add Cole Anthony. What did Cole Anthony do to players like Corey Joseph, who played 18 minutes? Well, there's your answer. And what about Mr. Black, who had 4 points in 20 minutes? Now, Anthony Black did have 3 steals and 2 blocks. But 20 minutes with Anthony back kills Anthony Black. Hey, there you go. Wordsmith legend. You don't need to be holding Anthony Black. Again, 1 game left this week. Cole Anthony's back. Don't worry about it. Caleb Houston had another 4 threes. That's a solid enough game. But again, there's just very little there that gets me interested or excited for any long-term value. We'll go on to the Spurs side of this because we had a late scratch in this game. And he did start the previous game, Jeremy Sohan, but unfortunately he had back spasms in the warm-up and was not able to play. So that meant that Bismack Biyombo moved back into the starting lineup. Biyombo played 26 minutes. So that's a lot. He had 9 points with 2 blocks. But remember, there was no Sohan, and Sohan is out tomorrow most likely. There was also no Charles Bassey. Goldfinger was resting on the first half of the game of the back-to-back and probably plays 12, 15 minutes tomorrow, which I would hope if he could get to 22, I would love it. I don't think he does, but it is interesting and it probably just drops a little bit there of Biyombo. If you're trying to figure out what the hell to do with Keldon Johnson, good luck because he had 7 points in 18 minutes. Why did he play 18 minutes only after they've been giving him 26? I don't know. But they did, making it very hard considering his usually poor overall fantasy game. If the minutes are going to fluctuate, that makes it hard to be a must-hold, must-roster player. What we also got here was big minutes for some reason for Chris Paul and the pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Paul was great. 10, 5, and 6, 3 steals and a block. Do they pump him minutes into this one because they're going to sit him tomorrow? I doubt it, but who knows? While Barnes had 24 with nothing else, I don't ever bite on a Barnes game like this. I'm just not going to do it, especially at a time when they're just losing games left, right, and center. We also got a lot of minutes from Julian Champagny. Now, I thought Champagny's minutes would bump with Sohan out, but it went even higher than I thought. He had 19, 4, and 2 with 5 threes. It is hard to judge, though. It is hard to trust. But tomorrow, on a back-to-back, with Sohan likely out, I'm okay if you wanted to stream in Champagny for that. Steph Castle did his usual thing. He had 16, 8, and 6. But this time, the efficiency wasn't bad. It was actually pretty good. 46 from the field and 100% from the line. He played a lot of minutes. He had a lot of shots. He's doing the thing that he needs to do at this point. While Devin Vassell, after that really big surge, the last few have been a bit disappointing. He had 11 points only. I'm still holding him, though. But that's obviously not at the level that we would want it to be at. Now, most of you know by now how I record this show. But yeah, I record most of it early on as games are happening. I do the intro after most of the games, or some of the games are over. So I couldn't tell you at the start of the show that we had a huge game from Steph Curry and then somehow Nikola Jokic just dropped a 60-point triple-double. But that's exactly what happened in the final game of the day, which was a double overtime game. And that's almost not the biggest story to come out of that game because just some of the dumbest stuff you will ever see in your life. Let's talk about the team that somehow did win the game, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves, 140-139. In double overtime, and had some struggles, to say the least, early on, but had a really sort of explosive burst of scoring. But overall, the game is great from him. 34, 10 and 8, 5 threes, 50 minutes. Just bad from the line, solid from the field, but it was up and down. Randall, 26, 9, and 7. Look, most of these players are going to have good games. There was no Naz Reid or Dante DiVincenzo, so we got a lot more Nickeil Alexander-Walker. A lot more. 45 minutes. He had 26, 7 and 8, 5 threes, 2 blocks. It's an excellent game. He hit the game-winning free throws. But of course, those two players who are 50 minutes a game combined weren't there. So don't read into that with Alexander Walker. And the same with Conley, who only had 9 points, but he had 8 assists, he had a steal, and he played 36 minutes. And we got 40 Gobert minutes. He was also pretty strong here. Unfortunately, even though we played 44 minutes, we are very much back in the old Jaden McDaniels days with a fully healthy team. And Randall there, he is back to just being a nobody. And while he's been great, I don't know that we need to hold on to this version of McDaniels because it's not very good. 12 and 7 in 44 minutes. And we saw some big elevations from him in the past with Jaden McDaniels. When players would go out, he wouldn't elevate. This year he did. But the problem is that guys are back and he's shrunk back down. So I'm not sure that you need to consider Jaden McDaniels a hold. And again, don't read too much into that Nickeil Alexander-Walker performance given all the players that were out. On the Denver side of the game, there were players out there as well. We had a late scratch from Michael Porter Jr. Apparently there was a sick family member, so he was out for personal reasons. And Jamal Murray out with a hamstring injury. And I reckon tomorrow, you're not going to see Nikola Jokic, and you're 100% not seeing Aaron Gordon in that game tomorrow. Let's start with Jokic, who played 53 minutes. He played the entirety of the second half and both overtimes, and he ended with just a ludicrous game. 61 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, 6 threes, 79% from the line on 24 attempts and 62 from the field. Not the best game of the day, though. A ridiculous game from Nikola Jokic. Let's talk about the good things. Christian Brown played 53 minutes. 18, 12, and 4 with 3 steals is actually a line that he's put up in like regular starter minutes. So it's good, but obviously you'd hope for more when you're playing that many. And then 47 from Aaron Gordon was great. 30 and 8 with 5 assists. But I don't think Gordon's playing tomorrow. I'm also certain Jokic isn't playing tomorrow. What we did have with Murray out is not Russell Westbrook starting. It was Jalen Pickett who started. Maybe they should have closed with him. Pickett played 32 minutes, 9, 4, and 5. It was okay if you decided to stream him in that position. And the other guy who was also delivered close to what you wanted was Peyton Watson, whose minutes have been up lately. Watson had 4 blocks. He had 7 points only and 3 rebounds and nothing else. And tomorrow I would expect he gets a pretty decent run at things, even though he did play 45 minutes here. That brings us to Russell Westbrook, who in the past used to be my favorite player a long time ago, but I have for 5, 6, 7 years in a row just gone on and on and on about, annoyingly so, about how dumb this man's decision-making can be. And if you ever want an explanation of some of the dumbest stuff you will ever see in your entire life, watch this game. Watch the last 10 seconds. Nikola Jokic had a 60-point triple-double. They had the lead. They won the game. He gets the steal. There was no shot clock on. He could have just dribbled the ball out. Instead, he does a 1-2 back and forward with Jaden McDaniels. Goes in, blows a layup like, bro, what are you doing? Leaving time on the clock. About 10 seconds left on the clock for the Wolves to get the ball, which they did, and go down the other end. And then they find, with 0 seconds left on the clock, Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the corner, attempts a 3. And guess what Russell Westbrook does? It was actually a 2. Guess what Westbrook does? He fouls him. Bro, what are you doing? What are you fouling a jump shooter for on a flaming dog shit pile shot attempt that he had to get off? It is just some of the dumbest stuff you'll ever see. Why did you take that layup? Why are you closing out fouling this man? What are you doing? And cost them the game. Not that it matters that much, but Jokic does that and they lose because of this clown. This guy makes some of the dumbest decisions you will ever see. It's inexcusable, honestly. Like, I can excuse someone missing a shot. That happens. No one's hitting 100% of shots. Even a bad pass it can be excusable. Stuff that is structural and procedural, like, hey, don't take a shot when we've got the ball with no shot clock on and we're up. Hold it. What are you doing? Maintain possession. That is the easiest thing of all time. Has this man never played basketball before? Why did he take that layup and miss it? Why are you closing out on Nickeil Alexander-Walker and hitting him on what are you doing? Just absolutely inexcusable stuff. Honestly, and this is why he has been a failure in all of these different locations. Just inexcusable decision making. It's so frustrating. Anyway, what did Westbrook do? He played 38 minutes. He had 12, 6, and 7. He shot 36 from the field and 57 from the line. Of course he did. Malone had been cutting him back quite a bit and did it again here. Maybe you could look to stream him in tomorrow, but overall, he's not a 12-team league guy because he's been getting 24 minutes, and it needed Murray and Porter to be out for him to get these big minutes and double overtime. And still he screwed it up. I would almost just drop him out of principle just from watching that bullshit at the end of that game. It was so bad. I'm fired up. Should we look at lines of the night? It's tough, man. Jokic was right there, but in the end, Steph's numbers get him there. 52 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals, a block, and 12 threes. But, man, it's so close. The waiver wire line of the night, the best waiver wire performance of the day, goes to Ryan Rollins. 23 with 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals, and looking like maybe a 12-team pickup. Your young gun of the night, we're going to Memphis because the big fella, Zach Edey, got over 30 minutes against the Warriors. He had a double-double with 4 blocks, 10 points, 16 boards, and 4 blocks. And your dud of the night, it was almost Jaden McDaniels, but it wasn't in the end. We stay in Memphis, and we go to Scotland Pippen Jr., who, it wasn't a bad game, but he's highly rostered. He didn't deliver that much. 10, 2, and 2 is fine, but it's not great, and you drop Scott Pippen in most cases. That's the end of the show. We're done. It is Tuesday's games done and dusted. We've got 9 on Wednesday that we're coming back for, and you're going to be around for all of it. You hit subscribe, you thumb it up, you keep things rolling. I know that was a negative end, me talking about Westbrook, but I'm not talking about you being negative. You be positive. Keep your lineups rolling, make the pickups. Congratulate yourself for something good you did during the day. Guys, hey, but also, by the way, check out Bitches Be Ballin' podcast. I don't know when it's coming out, but Kayla Fonte and Yuri are putting out. I went on their show today. Spoke to them. It was awesome. Long show, long chat, and I'll promote it when it comes out. But check out Bitches Be Ballin', the first and I believe only women run and led fantasy basketball content that's out there on the web. So go check those guys out. And I was on their show today, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.